Recording off.
Thank you, everybody, and welcome to the 2023 NANS Education Committee webinar series. Today's and this year's first webinar is based on data-driven insights. Today's online patient journey and how physicians understand key insights to stay current. I'd like to introduce today the founder and president of Valet Health, Matty Crescenzo. He is founder and president of this institution of Valet Health, a healthcare digital platform supporting physician specialists, and he is the moderator for our session. He has 18 years of experience in digital marketing and web-based technologies in healthcare and across other industries, with an early career in research experience in neuroscience at the NIH. Our first panelist is Dr. Paul Hubble. He is president of the Louisiana Society of Interventional Pain Physicians. He was appointed to the Medical Advisory Committee of the Louisiana Workers' Compensation Advisory. He is a diplomat of the American Board of Anesthesiology with an added qualification in pain management. He's also a diplomat of the American Board of Pain Medicine and a diplomat of the American Board of Interventional Pain Physicians. He is one of only 4 physicians in the state of Louisiana that holds the designation of International Fellow of Interventional Pain. Our second panelist is Dr. Christopher Rogers. Dr. Rogers is founder of San Diego Orthobiologics Medical Group. He's a board-certified physical medicine and rehabilitation specialist. He has more than 25 years of clinical experience. Dr. Rogers is one of the world's leading experts in the field of orthopedic regenerative medicine, specializing in non-surgical spine and joint conditions. He has developed new techniques for the treatment of tendon injuries, osteoarthritis, and disc degeneration. Our third panelist is Dr. Mark Gruner. He is a board-certified sports medicine physician and chief medical officer and co-founding medical officer of Limber Health, a digital health solution for patients and providers. And this institution is designed to reduce costs and improve the care of individuals with musculoskeletal conditions. Dr. Gruner specializes in the prevention and treatment of sports medicine injuries. He received his registered in musculoskeletal certificate, which is one of the highest standards in ultrasound in medicine. His procedures include minimally invasive ultrasound guided carpal tunnel release, percutaneous tenotomy, specifically the 10X procedure, tendon scraping, neural releases, ultrasound guided fasciotomy for compartment syndrome, and regenerative medicine techniques. And lastly, but not least, our fourth panelist is Dr. John David Hoppenfeld. He is a board certified and fellowship trained physician who specializes in pain management, and he has authored many textbooks to include the best-selling textbooks, Fundamentals of Pain Medicine, as well as Orthopedic Neurology. He was the longtime medical director of Southeast Pain and Spine Care, a large practice based in Charlotte, North Carolina, where he still practices. He became an NFL physician in 2019 and continues to serve as the pain management physician for the Carolina Panthers. He has been recognized by his peers by being named top doctor in Charlotte Magazine from 2018 until the present. And with that, I'll turn it over to Matty.
All right. Thanks, Dr. Malinowski. And again, I really appreciate NANS providing this opportunity for us to be able to share some experience and insights that we hope will bring value to physicians and those watching this webinar. Really, when I look at this and as I think about the panelists here, these are physicians I have tremendous respect for as clinicians and what they do, the innovation they brought in clinical care, and also what they bring from a research perspective. But I really have great respect for their business acumen as well. So as we talk about some of these things in terms of the digital landscape, I'll be turning it over to them to be able, to do some, Q&A as we go through this. And also just, making everybody aware, feel free to drop your questions into the Q&A here in Zoom. And we'd love to be able to answer as many questions as possible, again, to be able to bring insight and value to you through this. I think really the key message that I wanted to start out with for all of us is that this adage of you can't improve what you don't measure. right? So even though we're talking about the business side of digital marketing from a physician perspective and what you need to be thinking about, and being able to measure and quantify business performance and marketing campaigns and online profiles that we're going to talk about. This also ties in to tracking data on the patient outcome side. And I think some of the cool things we're going to look at in some of these forthcoming slides, we'll talk about even utilizing patient outcomes data for marketing as well. But this study here in the bottom right that references the state of digital marketing in healthcare from last year in 2022, interestingly, it shows that 80% of healthcare marketing executives, even those that were segmented in the leaders category, still reported a lack of tools, infrastructure, and really not a capability to be able to measure marketing ROI. And what that means, right, is, are my marketing dollars working? Can I measure the outcome of it? Are these efforts actually delivering new patients? And what you're going to see here and hear from these panelists will attest to that evidence, and you'll hear their various viewpoints. So if we were going to look at the several buckets that we're going to cover today that are important for today's digital landscape and physician digital presence and success in these areas, the first thing is really having an accurate footprint from all these online third-party profile sites, WebMD, Vitals, Healthgrades, Google, even your own website, right? Having a standardized, accurate digital presence and letting that be consistent, right? For where patients go. And then, being able to, again, measure business outcomes and return on investment, something that typically is a black box until you get to see that it's possible. We're also going to talk about mobile engagement and a mobile first approach to patient education and also outcomes, patient outcomes as well, and leveraging that for marketing. So I guess this is a good opportunity. I want to turn over to each of the panelists, and Dr. Chris Rogers, I want to ask you first, how you've seen your practice there in San Diego Orthobiologics, but really as you've seen marketing over the years, just to shed some light on how you've seen the evolution of it and the importance of digital at a high level here to start.
Yeah, well, as an older physician, having been in practice 25 years, I've seen this evolution over the decades. In the beginning, I was sort of raised that if you did good work, you'd get recognized and patients would come find you. And by and large, that's true. You still have to do good work and provide good outcomes and take care of your patients. But nowadays, particularly in the practice that I'm in now, where, I evolved from I had done a fellowship with Paul Dreyfus, Kevin Pazza in spine, and it was predominantly an insurance-based spine practice. And then in the more recent years, I evolved into more of a cash-based regenerative medicine, offering regenerative medicine therapies in addition to standard of care. We had to let patients know we were here and let them know about these new treatments that we were developing that really weren't commonly known. So 15 years ago, no one really knew what platelet-rich plasma was, for example, for knee osteoarthritis. So as we collected data and we were able to demonstrate efficacy, we had to educate. We had to do some market development, essentially, and educate people and let them know what was real and what was not real. And so that's where digital marketing became important to let people know about us. And it starts with making a good website, but then the other challenge I ran into is, being an older physician, I'd been at a variety of different hospitals over the years and different locations. And so optimizing the search for my practice. And, if you type in my name, make sure that you find me at my current practice and not, previous business. So that was the first thing that happened. The second thing is, like I said, we have to constantly generate educational content for patients to help them find us so they know what we offer. And that's particularly true we have younger physicians in our practice now that don't have 25 years experience and have, a steady stream of friends and family referring to you. So we got to get those young people busy, and that requires a media presence. And as an older guy, I had no knowledge of that. I don't know how to use Facebook or Instagram. So that's where you've helped us in having that data, so we understand that if we put certain resources into a given channel, we know now we can track those patients and see how they're finding us and whether or not, we should be investing more in one place or the other. So I think from a business standpoint, from a patient education standpoint, all these tools are critical.
Great. Thanks, Dr. Rogers. And yeah, I think that point you made there too is the salient one about how making business decisions based on the data and letting that guide you. Even different, you think of digital campaigns that we've done, right? That will target, different segments of a patient population where they hurt, right? Especially as you think of whether it be interventional pain, PM&R, sports medicine, or and these, the types of procedures we want to build visibility for. It's being able to know on those different online channels where to make wise and prudent decisions and let the data to guide you. So Dr. Paul Hubble, with your practice that you've established for years with Southern Pain and Neurological, I know that things that we've talked about, how there's a lot of noise out there as far as that there's eye candy and people approaching you about things when it comes to online or digital or the next, latest and greatest advertising tactic. I think what are your thoughts as you think of the substance of being able to even know what your return on investment is and, your experience with digital here at the outset?
Sure. I like Dr. Rogers, I've been doing this for 30 years this year. When I started, there were not many pain physicians around. Therefore, you were more full than you ever wanted to be. There was not a lot of marketing other than word of mouth because physicians and patients were sending people more than you could handle. But as we developed with social media and digital world, it became, and in addition, a lot more people being trained in pain, you started to see competition and competition for similar patients. So it became evident that even for the old guy, that you have to do something different to try to get your name out, and also get quality care out to patients. And that's one of the things I got involved with was, I think at a Napa Pain conference, there was a company promoting that they could do digital marketing for you. And the truth was they weren't even doing SEO. And they didn't correct. I like Dr. Rogers, had a number of places I practiced.
Yeah, go to your flowers, baby.
Go and mute yourself, Mark.
So there was a number of places I practiced, and my addresses were all over the place. And so that's when I got help and got that cleaned up quickly, which made a big difference. I got entered in the top 5 whenever there was pain topic pulled up. Then by doing that and posting some, what I was able to do is now track how many people were clicking and how many were converted to a patient, how many came in and saw me. And then we could look at my practice and see what the average income per patient was. And you could track how many dollars you were generating by these patients that you were converting. If they came for one visit and came for the second, then you could track them and you would know what your return on investment is because you knew what you were paying per month. And then you could see what you were putting into the practice. And that really is helpful because that's most of what I wasn't getting before. So it's made a big difference in how busy I am. And also the other thing is you can track some outcomes. You can also get patients to comment online about you and others. Today's world, most other people are looking at some form of social media or digital technique, and they're able to track doctors and see what your ratings are. Last thing I'll say on that is what was uncovered was there was, as in pain is frequent, we have patients who maybe not wanted medicine, can't get it, and get disgruntled. And we had someone who actually posted negative information that was untrue. And with the help of some digital experts, we were able to get that cleaned up, which is another way to protect yourself and project the proper image.
Got it. Thanks, Dr. Hubble. There is a question here from the audience about how do you clean up old locations from your online profile? I actually will address that when we get to some of the reputation slides that actually speak to some of the examples of what's out there if it's not currently managed. But let me turn it over to Dr. J.D. Hoppenfeld and ask this question. So, Dr. Hoppenfeld, like thinking about, before we started working together years ago, I think seeing your leadership amongst the physician group, to really adopt digital early, right? The importance of being able to go direct to consumer, not just, separately, typically physician practices may think of referring physician, boots on the ground type of marketing, but seeing the importance of going digital direct to consumer early on with your colleagues and seeing your leadership there to have it be adopted and implemented. Your thoughts on that, on digital overall, and in your experience and how you can guide other physicians on this on this webinar now, what they should be thinking about.
Yeah, thanks for having me, by the way.
Sure.
So in terms of running a practice, it's no longer about your ability as a physician. It used to be, but at this point, it's really connected to, can you do the job, right? And I think that most people that are on this call that are part of the pain management world are well qualified and can do an epidural. They can do facets, they can prescribe medications, right? So then it becomes the patient experience. And if you can provide a better patient experience, then patients start to come back, right? So that starts from they're going to Google you before they see you. So what's their experience? 70% of the people that are going to make that decision whether to come in or not are the female in the relationship. So the female in the relationship or the female involved is going to say, you're going, or I'm going to go for myself. They're going to see what your reputation is online. And you could be the greatest doctor in the world, or you can be the biggest jerk in the world. But what does your reputation say online? Then they're going to make an appointment, right? And if your address is wrong, if your phone number is wrong, if they're trying to get notes and it's wrong, then it's an issue, and they're not going to come in and see you, right? And then they get there, and I think Paul made a good point about this, is that you're going to treat them, right? And I'll say, at least in Charlotte, North Carolina, we have 150 people that move to Charlotte a day. So that means we get a lot of patients that we're seeing somewhere else, someone somewhere else. And when they were seeing that person, they may have been on a fentanyl patch of 100 micrograms and oxycodone 20 times a day for sprained ankle, right? But their doctor wrote that. So you're going to do a great job taking care of 20 patients, but that one patient's going to be unhappy with what you have to say, right? And that's going to speak to your reputation and what the consumer sees afterwards, right? And it also comes, and you're going to treat, the first 20 and you're going to treat them for their back. But they don't realize, to say, Chris, like that they have tendonitis and that you do PRP. So part of your practice is not just what they're there for see, but what else can you do as a total thing to take care of the patient, right? So, and then what is there going to be their feedback of getting another appointment, right? And say they liked you, right? And they're like, oh, I recommend, go see J.D. Hoppenfeld, he's with the Panthers, go see him, right? And they Google you. And then all of a sudden, when they're Googling you, another doctor that has nothing to do with you, that you don't even know, has bought your webpage and has an ad saying that they're basically the same thing. And then they're going to take that patient. So from soup to nuts, you can't do it anymore without these tools. I mean, I personally think, it becomes challenging to get the job done. And I think it's not slowing down. If anything, this whole thing is sort of speeding up, so that's why we embrace this, not because we wanted to, but almost because you can't do it without it. So I'm really thankful that we've had the opportunity to sort of at least try and do our best to stay with it.
Great. Thanks, Dr. Hoppenfeld. I really appreciate that. And I think the point you made, there are a lot of great points there, but I think one of the takeaways is you can have a great clinical reputation, but that's distinct from an online reputation. What is actually what is perceived could be reality, right? To these prospective patients that are evaluating their options in a competitive marketplace for care, right? And Dr. Mark Gruner would want you to weigh in on, thinking about the importance of not just an accurate and optimized online presence for an independent physician, but you also have a unique perspective, I think, too, because you're innovating on the digital engagement side, even with Limber Health as the co-founder of Limber Health, and wanted your thoughts about digital as you step back and look at, what we've talked about here now, but how you see it from your seat.
Yeah, I mean, I think the one thing that I've really encountered, and it's more from the payer world, where I've been working with a lot of payers on value-based care contracts and how to coordinate care across the continuum, is, it's really important to measure your outcomes and to differentiate you from the competition. I mean, every primary care doc now in the country that's doing some type of value-based care contract is getting a list of who's high cost, who's low cost, but they don't know who's high quality. So how you differentiate yourself is really, really important when you're thinking about that. As a young physician, I'm one of the younger ones on the panel, so I'll say, I find that the most important thing from an online reputation is also knowing like how the referring docs know about me and how they know I'm a high quality physician, what that means, making sure that they know about the various procedures that I can offer and the outcomes that can be delivered on those procedures. And I think that's really important when you're thinking about it from, not only from a referring perspective, but also from a payer perspective.
Yeah, great. And I think too, your point there as well is about, even showcasing, some of the, the advanced diagnostic capabilities you bring when you assess patients or diagnose patients. But I mean, think of the importance of being able to have that information across digital channels on social media, on Google, on WebMD health profiles about comprehensively what you all do, right? About even the conditions you treat, but those innovative procedures where they may not, they don't have to go to an invasive surgery or surgical procedure, but that there are these other options out there. And then also if you can put data in front of them very transparently on outcomes, right? Then that looks it's a lot different picture to the consumer. And I think we're only going to see again more and more of that, right? As practices and as physicians become more keen on digital and adoption. So as we get into this, the section for online reputation, as we have been touching on already here in the beginning, what's interesting from the software we have on our platform with Valet Health is like when we run diagnostic capabilities on profiles, on doctor profiles, on clinic locations. And when you look at all that, what we typically find at baseline is 78% of information about providers and about where they practice is wrong, right? There's something off, whether it's hours, it's phone number, it's inaccurate bio, procedure info. But the bigger question is, right, how much of your online presence do you have control over? Right. If you go, as Dr. Hoppenfeld was talking about, if you Google your name and you start to see some of these profiles, right? Well, do you have either a vendor or software that does this that makes your information accurate and up to date? Do you have any support for it? Do you as a physician have control over any of these profiles that are out there? It's a really critical point now that really just it can't be overlooked just in today's digital landscape. And really what creates some of this complexity and these challenges in this whole ecosystem that you see here, where there are these third-party sites, there are data aggregators, there's local sites, for example, like Yelp, and then there's health review sites, WebMD, Vitals, Health Grades, RateMDs, you name it, that automatically spawn these profiles. So somebody at your practice or at your hospital or health system didn't create these profiles, but they exist about you. And the question has to be, well, what's my first impression to a potential patient or to the consumer, right? Especially as consumers today have these increasing Amazon-like expectations of a convenient, quick, seamless user experience, right? Well, foundationally, is the information even accurate, right? And so when you leave it to chance, this visual here just shows how really that ads can be run on your profiles if you leave some of your profiles completely to chance. WebMD or Vitals, for example. In WebMD, 1 out of 4 adults in the U.S. use WebMD every month. There's over 1.2 billion traffic visits across all of WebMD as well in the U.S. every 12 months. So there's significant consumer volume. There's significant activity that's only increasing across that site and across other health review sites. So, the key takeaway is not to leave it to chance, right? And here's an example of when something is left to chance. right? Physician profile, it says claimed, right? So it's unclaimed. There's no profile picture. There are ads running on it. And yet there are 49 reviews, 49 patients left reviews on a profile like this. Same thing too, if you see it in Vitals, and then you can just go on down the line with other sites as well. So the good news is that there are software solutions and there are support solutions from a digital standpoint that not only clean up the data, but can help make it not only accurate, but actually turning it into something where it's measurable and it can help with performance. So to that earlier question from the audience about, well, how do you clean up old locations? So this is an example where we're looking at a physician profile, but when you look at old locations, one thing is you first have to establish who has administrative control, if somebody does, of, let's say, for example, a Google business profile, that location profile. And we've seen all kinds of stuff over the years where it could be tied to a practice administrator's personal Gmail or to a physician's email. But there are specific ways and steps that you can get listings verified. There are also software systems out there that have direct API, what's called API, application programming interface. It's like the systems talk to each other where they can update, grab those older locations, have them verified and authenticated, and then make them accurate, right? So you as a physician say, here's the source of truth about me, where I practice and what I do. And there are software solutions that can make that accurate across that larger landscape or ecosystem. So that's one of the key points, is that there are tools out there that do this and do it effectively. And so once you make it accurate at the foundation, here's one of the colleagues of Dr. Chris Rogers at San Diego Orthobiologics. You take something from a WebMD profile, for instance, you not only make the information accurate, but then what you can do is have something like an enhanced profile where you can have additional tracking on it. You can track the online appointment requests, the calls, and then also showcase some of the orthobiologics or regenerative medicine or innovative treatments that are available to patients. So you turn something that's an unused asset to something that becomes a generator of visibility, and it's actually trackable even beyond that. Does it deliver new patients? So, Dr. Rogers, your quick thoughts on something like this as an example of being able to clean up a foundation or footprint and then actually use it to your advantage for growth.
When patients are searching for a physician, the cleaner the information, the more clear the message, the more it matches what they're looking for, the more likely they are to find you. And so adding in these fine details, I think on that site, we actually maybe have a video link too that sort of lets Dr. Ambach explain,
yes,
you get a feel for who she is as a person and what her expertise is, the research she's done, the areas that she likes to focus her practice on. And this makes it more likely that she's going to find a patient that's a good fit for her practice. So I think as opposed to some of the generic stuff you might see out there, it just makes it easier for the patient to feel good about picking up that phone or reaching out to you. And that's what we've seen with these features that you've helped us build out.
Yeah, I think that's a great point on the video too, of enriching these profiles, of making a connection to the potential patient where they can actually see the physician in that video recording, but that actually being available in something like a WebMD profile when it's enhanced. And also I think of some of the things we've done, Dr. Hubble, at your practice and with your physicians as well, but showcasing procedures, right? We can even have procedure information and video content that's brought into WebMD. So, step one, clean up the footprint and the foundation, right? And then after that, you really want to be able to showcase what you do and the expertise and comprehensiveness of the care that you provide. Now, tying back to the earlier point from Dr. Hoppenfeld about competition and competitors jumping in and trying to take market share, very, very common practice, right? So here's one example of, these are actually sponsored ads that run on a Yelp profile. And you could think, okay, well, Yelp's just for restaurants. Like, why do I need to worry about a Yelp profile as a physician? But physicians and practice profiles also, there are ads that can run on profiles that are left untouched. Same thing like we looked at with the health review ones like WebMD or Vitals, for example. And then that point that Dr. Hoppenfeld made too about, just the level of competition. So ads can run on your name as a physician, on your practice or your hospital health system, whatever the brand is, they can run ads on it and try to take that traffic. And so, groups that are more progressive in their thinking, right, about digital, it's just, again, really important to be able to try to have an approach that's systematic, but have an awareness that this is going on, even if you're not aware of it. There are tools out there that not only actually can tell you, of course, traffic on your website and analytics on your traffic. There are vendors and tools that can give you data on your competitors and traffic and what they're doing from a digital ad perspective. Dr. Rogers, I'm thinking of how we've utilized competitor analytics too, to look at how aggressive certain groups are, especially with trying to take traffic for orthobiologics or regenerative medicine, right?
Yeah, unfortunately, the field of regenerative medicine, is very early, and there are people that are practicing, with ethical evidence-based standards. And then there are people that will just say are not, using products that are maybe not even FDA compliant. And it's hard for patients sometimes to know the difference. So unfortunately, when patients are searching for a regenerative medicine option, a lot of times some of these others will pop up. So you've helped us to sort of identify, as bad as some of these clinics are as physicians and health caregivers, they're actually very good marketers. So we've learned how to identify the strategies they're using, what keywords might be working with their ads. Fortunately, I'll just, as a general comment, fortunately, we're seeing, FDA crack down, others crack down. So we're seeing fewer of these other types of practice, but even other legitimate practices, right? It's just good to understand what other practices are doing and learn from them. And again, this, 25 years ago, this was not anything that I would have ever even had considered. It was take care of the patient, send a letter to the referring doctor, give them a call, all that, very personal, analog, kind of behavior. But as the world gets bigger and as more people are searching for physicians and frankly everything online, we just have to take advantage of those strategies and technologies.
Absolutely. And as we get to one of the most visible non-healthcare online profiles is really being able to take control and manage your Google business profile. So having ownership of it is step one. And then there's all these new features that Google is utilizing in a ranking algorithm to make your physician profiles more visible in Google, which is typically on the right-hand side of search results. And so that's even looking at things like, are you posting content? How frequently are you posting content in a content stream? Review volumes, of course. There's even a Q&A section. There's an appointments field. But even before some of those more advanced types of things, Dr. Gruner, your thoughts on, you as a physician having the importance of having control over your Google business profile or working with a partner, especially as you think of maybe changing, if you change locations or you want to make adjustments to it, the importance of just being able to have, control over it where it's not left out there.
Yeah, I think that's an important thing as a younger physician. I think if you're going to change practices at any point in your career, which there's definitely a chance you can, owning your own Google business page is crucial. And it's important because to get higher up on your search engine optimization, get your reviews, you don't want those reviews going somewhere else if you change practices. So owning your own Google page, owning your own brand, I think is really, really important. Especially when it comes to getting higher up on the search engine optimization on Google.
Great. Cool. And now as we pivot over to the analytics and some of the data section on being able to track, return on investment, As we look at this, right, I think if you were to walk away, if the, attendees were to look at this and say, okay, if you're going to study how we build visibility for what you do as a physician, and you had to walk away with just 3 performance metrics to look at, the growth happens this is a funnel, right? So the growth happens in a funnel where at the top is, okay, you have these activities that are building visibility for, let's say, some of your interventional procedures, maybe something that's treating discogenic back pain or disc herniation or knee osteoarthritis, whatever it may be. Those activities create awareness and visibility, and they attract new users. So the first metric that you would want to hold a vendor accountable for is how much new traffic am I attracting to my digital properties, predominantly your hub, your website. So how much traffic is being generated month over month, but then how much of that traffic converts, right? A conversion could be defined in this instance of, does somebody, call a number, which we have call tracking on it, or fill out a form to request an appointment to see you. That's what we would call a lead, which happens in the middle of the funnel. So looking at your lead volume month over month, then typically this is the part that is a black box completely, is, okay, how much of that actually generated new patients in the door, right? Where the rubber meets the road. So that's what Dr. Hubble was talking about at the beginning, of knowing and seeing a visible new patient flow, and even being able to tie it back to the procedures that were done, or procedures that were done at a surgery center, and even dollar amounts to it. That's how you get to the answer of return on investment. That's how you get to meaningful metrics like cost per acquisition. But if you said, what are the 3 things that you have to hold somebody accountable for? It's managing your digital presence or those campaigns, new users traffic month over month, quarterly, and then looking at those annual trends, leads month over month. Is that growing? Is it increasing? If it's not, why? And then your patient mix, how many new patients are coming in, and then you can look downstream of where they're coming from, the types of patients that are being captured. And then, as you look at those 3 metrics, you see that actually carries through to insights and dashboard reporting. So you should be looking for reporting like this. And if you're, depending on what part of the journey you are, or if you're an independent physician practice or part of a group, you own it, or you're part of a group, or even part of a larger organization, the meaningful KPIs to look at, key performance indicators, are what's your cost to get a new patient, your cost per acquisition, and then what's your return on investment overall for what you're putting into marketing, right? And then after that, you would want to look at, like Dr. Rogers was saying earlier, where the growth came from, to make decisions on how to increase and allocate more funds to what's working. And then you allocate less funds to campaigns that aren't as effective. But overall, just to the point of being able to see substance and performance visibility like this, Dr. Hoppenfeld, I know this was something, years ago, before implementation and before having a digital approach. I mean, you talked about before, right? Yeah, there are things where you could look at impressions or traffic, but you really didn't know if it was something that was, delivering patients. What are your thoughts on that, on the importance of seeing meaningful data like that and getting ROI?
I can't tell you how poorly I spent money back in the day. We had a billboard that we had posted. We had taken out ads in certain magazines. We'd wasted so much money. And I think a lot of groups that get big, they have a marketing budget and they need to spend that budget, right? And then they get in trouble. So you need to have a good return on investment for your marketing. And we'd have reps out there pounding the doors at other practices, and we didn't really know how much there was a return on investment for our money spent. And what's really helpful is, they call it, soft dollars, but inevitably it was a waste of money dollars. So to have a direct correlation between here's what we're spending and here's what we're bringing out makes it a lot more comfortable sort of pill to swallow. And we did better.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, thanks, Dr. Hoppenfeld and Dr. Hubble, your thoughts too, again, seeing the changes in the marketplace and the competition, how aggressive competition is. And then also, like we talked about, there's a lot of eye candy or noise out there about what can be done, from an advertising standpoint or marketing, but what it's meant for you to get, interventional or surgical, like getting procedure patients, and your thoughts on being able to have meaningful data like that and ROI, so that that the dollars are more than paying for itself, right? And what you invest in marketing. What are your thoughts as you have seen it? I think you're muted, Dr. Elwood. Yeah, if you can unmute. So Paul, we'll keep, yeah, we can't, we don't hear. Yeah.
I'm good.
Oh, there you go.
I'm sorry.
Okay.
No,
right.
To answer your question, look, in the beginnings, you really don't know how many new patients you're getting, or what does it equal in dollars, and you can't quantify the marketing dollars you're spending into what does it mean to the practice and the bottom line. But with this technique, you can, as you mentioned, we have used this to be able to educate patients about the newer things that are happening, because every year in pain, there's new things that are available to help people to do less invasive surgery, but still obtain a good quality of life. And so it helps in educating them. That also converts them into a patient. And then I can know how many dollars I've spent, and then how many dollars I've collected. And what's amazing is, before I did this, got a couple of new patients a week. Now it's a couple a day. Mm-hmm. So it really, really has made a difference in how many new patients I'm getting. And I also know, over 500% return on investment since I began. So it's hard to say no. And what's scary is to think how you were practicing before.
Right. What I think is also interesting too, is I think from some of the campaigns we've looked at, I think as interventional pain physicians, like we talk about, you talk about like also comprehensively treating pain for a patient from head to toe, right? So that could be occipital neuralgia to diabetic peripheral neuropathy. But I remember, Dr. Hubble, some of the content that was created on neuralgia and how much traffic, for example, traffic flow from campaigns like that brought in, specific types of patients. It just really speaks to the importance of, diversity in a digital campaign, and thinking comprehensively about what's, what you treat as a physician, right? And your expertise and the other colleagues in your practice. So, but then ultimately tying that back to the dollar amounts and the campaigns that are effective are really, what's key.
What's important is, okay, we're able to get them in maybe on that basis, but if you're doing a good job, you'll examine the patient in multiple areas of pain complaint. You'll have a lot more things to take care of than just the one thing they thought they needed taken care of. As Dr. Hubfeld said earlier, is a lot. And then there's a lot of referrals that you can make from those patients that you examine and send them to an orthopedist. So you're referring back the other way for people that are worked up for a knee or hip or shoulder or something, or a spine surgeon. You've actually been able to help the referral source that maybe isn't digitally related, but it improves your practice.
Absolutely. Now, if we, as we continue in the theme of data and with analytics, we mentioned at the outset the importance of being able to also track patient outcomes, right, and clinical outcomes. And I think more and more, like, so this of course is possible now, but tying it, typically there's a disconnect between getting patient outcomes captured and then tying that to marketing activities, right? So this is just an example of how, right, you can showcase on campaign landing pages, outcomes data. It can be propagated on different sites, like, on WebMD or on blog posts. But it's something that I think can even further differentiate physicians. You could even take different flows of satisfaction surveys, or if they rate their experience, once you get a positive or favorable outcome, you could then direct that patient to be able to leave a review on a Google or WebMD or Vitals or Health Grades. And, I think of Dr. Rogers, I think of data biologics, I think of you and data biologics. Your thoughts on outcomes driven marketing and the importance and what you also foresee coming down the line of what doctors should be thinking with outcomes.
Yeah, I think thanks for mentioning Data Biologics is a registry that I developed with two physician colleagues of mine about 5 years ago. And it was based on the fact that so many patients were paying cash essentially for procedures that had not yet been proven, right? So let's just use PRP as an example. And we understood the challenges that patients were facing, that they're just like us, trying to get cost effectiveness with our investment dollars, our advertising dollars rather. Patients are trying to get cost effectiveness with their healthcare, and we should help them try to achieve that. So we've been tracking patient outcomes for a long time with Excel spreadsheets, but we developed this Data Biologics company and software platform that allows physicians to track their patient outcomes. So whether it's an epidural steroid injection or a PRP knee injection or an intradiscal PRP injection, whatever we're doing, we can track the patient's outcome without spending a lot of time, energy, and money like we do in our clinical trials. So it's real world data. And this allows us to then help the patient to make informed medical decisions, right? Which is what it's all about. Informed consent is all about helping the patient have all the information they need to make an informed medical decision. So I think, you talk about the flow, you got to capture the patient, you got to capture, the audience, you got to turn them into a consult or a customer. Then that patient becomes a patient who has undergone a procedure or a treatment. And then you got to track the outcomes so that you can go back and educate the next person who comes along. How good are your outcomes? And I think it just always bothered me personally that I would look at websites and they would make these wild claims about different treatments that were being offered when there really wasn't, I knew there wasn't a lot of data behind the claims. And so that's our attempt to try to help physicians, make appropriate evidence-based claims about the outcomes they're having and help patients to make informed medical decisions.
Excellent. Thanks, Dr. Rogers. And, as we get to as a time check, I know we have just over 10 minutes left and we're at the tail end of it here. I think we've covered some ground so far, quite a bit of ground, and hopefully it's been valuable to everyone here listening in. As we talk now about really the importance of being where patients are, engaging them on mobile devices, on smartphones, digitizing that patient experience. As we look at the patient journey today, through SMS, text message campaigns, there are effective types of campaigns that can educate and set expectations for patients pre and post procedure. This is something that Dr. Hubble has seen be really effective at his practice. There's also, Dr. Gruner, I wanted to turn it over to you to talk about, what you see as well from mobile engagement, and with you being the co-founder of Valet Health and exercise prescription software in your platform, your thoughts on also outcomes tracking, but a mobile approach to engage patients.
Yeah, just briefly, because of time, I'll tell you that when a doctor gives a script, 12% of people go to therapy and 30% complete therapy, and then they come back to us and we didn't know the quality of the therapy they had. And so what I sought out and was pretty successful after doing some clinical studies at Mayo is I created new remote therapeutic monitoring codes that a physician, a PT, OT, a PA can bill for and get reimbursed for remotely monitoring their patients through an episode. And mobile has been a great way to do that. So a lot of physicians will prescribe a home exercise protocol for anything from disc herniation to flexion or extension home exercise protocol. We track that entire journey, track their patient-reported outcome measures for their therapy, and then really have an insight on what's going on at home using a whole host of technology, computer vision, motion tracking, tracking step counts. We have care navigators licensed in 40 states. And I think the whole idea is thinking about the episode, not just what's happening in the clinic, but more holistically across the entire continuum.
Great. Thanks, Dr. Gruner. And as we get to the tail end here, as we wrap up, and again, we'll have we still have 10 minutes left of Q&A. Just to summarize, what we've talked about, an accurate online footprint for physicians is something that cannot be ignored today in today's digital landscape. You want to be where patients are, but you want to be there where they are with an accurate digital presence for you as a physician at the location or locations where you practice across a larger ecosystem of sites. We did talk about, the importance of being able to use business outcomes to be like ROI, like cost per acquisition, and making decisions to have a more dynamic, iterative marketing approach. And that these things are possible, right? To be able to measure ROI, to hold a digital vendor or a marketing group accountable for meaningful performance metrics like that, where they understand you at your practice and the operational side. I think that's one of the things where there's typically a significant disconnect between marketing data and business data and actually what happens operationally. So having somebody that can really collaborate with you as a partner and be with you throughout your practice as it evolves and grows is really significant. And then thinking forward to a mobile first approach, thinking about, utilizing, HIPAA compliant SMS text message campaigns to educate your procedures, right? Where you take maybe information about new devices and treatments that are brochure based and turn those into digital campaigns where you're engaging them on smartphones, utilizing, again, outcomes data, as Dr. Rogers, as Dr. Gruner mentioned. This is all part of really going digital with your approach and thinking about that and thinking about that with a level of significance where there's, you're thinking, okay, well, where am I now? Right. And what can I do to take steps to level up? Right. And that's really it, is taking just the next step and to look at data to see where you are at baseline and making those improvements. So what I wanted to make sure that everybody knows here is as we finish up here, you can scan this QR code here, and that will take you to a page where if anything you think of after this that you didn't get a chance to ask and we didn't answer, you can shoot over that question in a Q&A on that page. And we would love to be able to help. And any of us here, whether it's me or if it's the physician panelists, you also could go right to that page at connect.valethealth.com/NANS. And then we also can provide a baseline report card on your online profiles, just again, to give you some insights and some data. And there also is a small guide too. We can help you with some tips and insights, to recap what we talked about. I see a question here from the audience. And the question is, how does one start at a brand new location as a brand new doctor with marketing and prices as compared to the competition? Okay. So I'll answer this one to start. And then if any of the of our panelists want to weigh in, can share thoughts on that as well. So I think the first thing is, as you're starting up as a new location, you really want to think about, well, what differentiates you as a provider and the care you're providing, right? You want to think about, not just, okay, of course, foundationally, you need accurate data and accurate information, but I think really thinking about those key procedures, if you as a specialist, and working back from that and saying, okay, where does it hurt for the patient? And then start to build campaigns around that. Then eventually, as you get more sophisticated in your approach, you can bring in patient outcomes data. But if you're starting brand new, you'll need things like, an accurate digital footprint. You'll need a website as a base, even if it's a 10, 15 page initial website that you have control over as the hub, and you have somebody managing for you. And I would just say, again, consistency in your data and in your information across all those places, across social media, across your health profiles and your website, but really think about what differentiates you as a provider and perhaps those interventional techniques or procedures that are done. Any of the panelists that have guidance for somebody that's starting a new location, and starting as a new doc, which should this physician be thinking about?
I think all of the points that you made are absolutely spot on. Everything you mentioned has to be done at a bare minimum. In addition to that, I'm old school. you know, going to a location where you can advertise people to come hear a 30-minute, 45-minute talk, and then do Q&A afterwards, helps you in many different ways. One is it helps, you know, let the community know you exist, but it also helps you craft the brand that you're trying to develop. So as people come up to you afterwards and ask you questions, you'll understand what message you're putting out there and how it's being received. So actually, you know, face-to-face interactions with potential patients is very helpful to get their feedback and make sure that you're communicating your message efficiently. And then also to, as you mature as a physician, understand, you know, what it is that what's gonna differentiate you from all the other physicians that are out there. I think, unfortunately, that's becoming more and more important, that we incorporate that aspect into our practice, that we, so I think just, it's not digital, right? But you need the digital to advertise that you're going to be given a seminar somewhere. But frankly, return on investment's been very good for us for seminars. So, and they're fun to do. It's just a time commitment. You got to dedicate the time to do those. But it's just, if you happen to enjoy them like I do, then they're very rewarding. So I would say that's, if you're in a new location, let everyone know. The other thing I would say is be willing to try new things. So one thing Matty's company does a lot is, as we're doing digital ads, we'll try different wording, right? So you might say, you know, I want to avoid knee replacement, or you might say, you know, treat your knee osteoarthritis, or you might just say, treat my knee pain. Different people will react differently to those terms. So be willing to experiment with the message that you're putting out there and find out what people are responding to, so that you're attracting the kind of people that you can help the best. You know, none of us as physicians can treat all patients. We just have to figure out what it is that we really are passionate about doing, and then communicate to patients that we offer those services.
Thank you, Dr. Rogers. And Dr. Hubble, any closing thoughts on that? If you were to give guidance to a younger physician, new location, and building up not just his or her individual footprint, but at a new location, your thoughts?
I'll tell you to meet as many physicians as you can, especially in the fields that can refer to you. That's outside of digital to start. But when you meet with them, to make it known that, hey, I can see a patient the same day or the next day, be very available, deliver a nice letter or afterward, whether it be by internet or text or even letter. But once you've done that, then you need to make sure your sites are clear, as you said, on the social media things. And you need to maybe start advertising, hey, we can, same day appointments, next day available, because what you'll find in many of the mature practices, referral docs will tell you, hey, I can't get somebody in for 2 or 3 weeks. And so if you even though they're satisfied with the people they've been referring to, now when they have that person who's in the office in dire pain, they have an option to say, hey, let's send to this person. So you can do it by meeting direct, but then you can also use the social media to follow up and to be sending these people texts and remind them, hey, I'm available.
Excellent. Thanks, Dr. Hubble. And closing thoughts from you, Dr. Hoppenfeld, on that guidance for young physicians starting out.
Yeah, I know we're up against the clock, so
yeah.
When I was running this, we have a big practice and we have all these locations. And when I started to do the digital marketing things, we had practices that were outside Charlotte, 45 minutes, an hour outside Charlotte. And they said, why am I spending money? You're just going to advertise, and it's not going to help me, right? It might help your clinic or it might help this location, but I have a new clinic and I'm in this location. And what they're able to do now, which I didn't even know was possible, was they can do a zip code analysis and see where the physicians are that are good to refer to you, and they kind of target that. They also can target, say, a 10-mile radius and really put the ads toward the patients that are going to come to your clinic. So they can it's not a shotgun approach where it's like, the drive home radio guy says the practice, right? Like that's kind of gone. It's a little bit more now laser focus on your specific center. And that's a big difference.
Awesome. Thanks, Dr. Hoppenfeld. And all right, we're up at time here. Just as a reminder to everybody, I'm going to just share this here. Again, the QR code, feel free to scan that, and anybody watching the webinar as a playback, shoot over additional questions. We want to be able to help and bring value to you all. Really big thanks to Dr. Mark Malinowski and the NANS Education Committee for allowing us to be able to share our thoughts and experiences here. Hope you found it helpful and beneficial. Thank you so much to the panelists joining as well. You guys are all good friends, and again, so much respect for each of you. I've learned a lot from you, and hopefully get an opportunity to do something fun like this again soon. So thanks, everybody.
Thank you, everybody.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.